When I was 13, I forgot how to get dressed. Forgetting how to get dressed was a crisis, of course, so I couldn't go outside, and I had to stay in my room, writing poetry about world peace. My desire for world peace was probably a metaphor for my desire for inner peace. It's just, at the time, I didn't really realize it. Forgetting how to get dressed was a progression, as so much is. 10 years earlier, and nothing had been wrong with me. Observe! Age 3, and I am dressed in a huge peach ball gown with a southern bell hoop skirt that my mother has just bought me from Hollywood Costume. I run into the kitchen to show my mother that I've dressed myself, and she's very supportive and takes a picture of me with our disposable camera, which we later lose. When I go into my pediatrician's office for my yearly checkup, I wear this peach ball gown as a sort of battle armor to protect myself against the needles and the prodding and the general indignity that comes with such a visit. And I give myself the name Princess Lila. I also imagine smashing in my pediatrician's small fat nose with my little fat fist. This dress has magical powers. I swear to myself, I will never wear pants. When I was in my room writing poetry about world peace, I thought about a lot of things. The main thing being world peace, of course. But when I had a second to think about anything else, I thought about a list that I had compiled called the dangers associated with getting dressed list. For instance, when I was 11 years old, I went to a farmer's market. I thought that I was dressed as a fairy, and a man approached me when I was alone. He said that I looked beautiful and complimented my fairy clip. And then he touched my head and brushed my hair back. My father pulled me away as soon as he had noticed. But I felt stupid and dirty and like a babyish idiot. So as soon as I got home, I took out the the fairy clip, and I shoved it down the couch cushions as far as I could. And I stopped being a fairy. Age 8, and I still know how to dress myself. Slim cut khaki pants and turtlenecks that are so tight that they squeeze my throat and make me irritable with my mother. She buys them in bulk. One cut, many colors. These clothes let me run freely on the playground. I'm able to jump, run, and play Pioneer, which is a very popular game in my class. I swear to myself, I will never wear dresses. My best friend Annie and I mock the girls who do. Dresses are for babies, and pink is too. Annie's favorite color is gray, and mine is navy blue. I went through 3 composition books by the time I was 13. They were all marbled with slate gray and white covers. I wrote about not shooting guns and loving each other and hippie things that you would find in a health magazine. And I thought about the dangers associated with getting dressed list. And I cried a little, hoping I looked like Virginia Woolf. Age 12, and I'm in a very signature outfit, a tight gray shirt and a tight gray jeans. I'm in my monochromatic stage, and my hair's even right past my waist, so I think I look like a space princess. And then I realized the public's perception of me. No longer am I appreciated for being imaginative or unique. No, it's quite the opposite of this. My clothes, they disappear. Strange men look at me far too closely, taking in my body as if it is something that they can own, steal from me. I want to be a boy with nothing that can be taken from me by simply looking. These strange men think that I am doing something for them by dressing in my tight gray outfit, when I am just trying to be a space princess. And this thought is not in their minds at all. And then I'm in my room. For a week, I dress in my dad's huge, oversized button-up shirts and Western shirts that hang over me like loose curtains. I do not look nice. I do not feel nice. I wish, more than anything, to be a woman. But I do not want the things that come along with it. I dream about being able to wear my peach ball gown again, barefoot, dance around and be a fairy. But this is not possible, so I stopped trying. I decide to become Cat Stevens, a 13-year-old female version of Cat Stevens with 99-cent notebooks, a poodle, and nothing to wear. I begin to contemplate my childhood. And in the midst of this, my mother comes into my room and decides to pile on stacks of clothes, white t-shirts, and blue jeans onto my bed. She even brings in a black bomber jacket with a bunch of metal zippers that sound like chainmail when I'm walking around. These clothes, they're nothing like the clothes that I marveled in as a child. They don't feel anything like them. Alone in my room, I find myself trying on party dresses again. They're safe as long as I'm alone in my room. And I experiment, trying on different sequins and tulle and satin, thinking about what each outfit would mean in the real world. Age 12, and I'm told that my outfits will get me a boyfriend, get me raped. Age 12, and I'm told that my dresses are too plain and that my button-up shirts make me look too gay. There's not a defining moment, yet there are millions. That these toxic moments that just, they build up over time, slowly until they swallow me. Age 14, and I go to a vintage store on Vermont Avenue, and I look through the racks of party dresses and the sequins and corduroy and ancient denim. Amongst the party dresses on the second floor, I found a purple one. It looks like something that a character in a book would wear, but it also feels like it could belong to me. So I take it home and I try it on fixes nothing. And it fixes everything. I think clothes can be magic. I think that clothes can subjugate you. I used to wear my clothes as a costume. When I was 13, I forgot how. These days, in my vintage shoes and sometimes my grandmother's old sweaters, I wear my clothes as a battle armor. And while the world's perception of me hasn't changed, the way that I let that perception control my existence has. I feel like it's happening a bit more like magic every single day. My clothing is transforming into what it once was. A representation or an expression of who I am.
We've all been there. Googling woman boob. 2 girls kissing. Sex minus man. Clitoris. That's just something we girls do. I once heard that the answer to any rhetorical question is no. Which is why straight girls look up am I gay quizzes. That's just facts. Not that I even need to look one up. My entire brain is just like an am I gay quiz. Just like any other straight girls. It's like when you have a song stuck in your head. You know the lyrics, but you can't help but sing it over and over again. Am I lesbian? No, of course not. I'm straight, obviously. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I've had a penis in my mouth. That's as sure gets. And, not to mention, there was a boyfriend, my boyfriend, attached to the end of it. Plus, I say, like, I love you, like, almost every day, and I'm, like, 85% sure that I mean it. I just love spending time with him. It's so comfortable to just sit with him for hours and hours without even saying anything. He's like my best friend. Of course, my real best friend is Stephanie. I've known her since we were 11, and somehow she manages to get funnier and funnier every single day. We can spend hours and hours just talking and laughing and cuddling. Our sleepovers are legendary. But where was I again? Yes, my boyfriend. So my boyfriend is like a mega hunk. He's an athlete. Okay, it's esports, but like that totally counts. And he's got these long, skinny arms and these soft, hairless legs. He kind of looks like if Timothée Chalamet and Michael Cera had a baby. Anyways, I know what you're thinking. How did a nerd like me land a total stud like him? Well, I guess I just got lucky. I had a crush on him for the longest time, and once we finally started hanging out, I totally got cold feet. But thankfully, he saw and had the common sense to see that because I had always liked him, I must still like him. And so he didn't give up, and after about 40 calls, I finally agreed to go out with him, and we've been dating ever since. Thank God he knew what I really wanted, right? I once asked him what it was like to be attracted to women. He laughed because like that's such a stupid thing to ask, and he said, "No, I don't know. I just think they're hot. I don't really think too much about it. That's kind of gay." But he didn't mean that in like a gay is bad. Like he's a good person. Like I'm not gay, but like I'm such an ally, and I would never let him use that word in a derogatory way. He just meant it like gay, as in that's something only homosexuals do. It is kind of gay to question you know what? Never mind. But he's not homophobic. He even lets me kiss the other girls sometimes, you know, just for the guys to watch for fun. There was this one night, or early morning, I guess, when me and Stephanie were coming home a little bit drunk, and she had to stay over at my place because, well, I don't remember the reason, but it was important and it was good. When she came in, she kicked off her heels and sat down on the couch like she owned the place. I mean, I was always telling her that she might as well just move in. And she patted the seat next to her, and of course, I obliged. And I was just sitting so up on her, and I don't know why, but she wouldn't move over to make more space, and not that I even asked her to. For some reason, my heart felt like it was pressing against my chest. Kind of like one of those dogs in one of those shelter commercials just begging to be set free. Anyway, she started talking about some guy who she claims to be in love with, but barely talked to the whole night. And I was listening, I swear, but her eyes were just so distracting. And like I said, we were drunk, and I told her that he didn't deserve her. Not my best line, but she laughed, and it made me feel warm. And she kind of shifted in her seat and sighed, and her lips parted a little bit, and it was just more comfortable to lean in, and we were just so close to each other, and then we just leaned in, and we just pecked each other. On the lips, yes. But then my boyfriend came in, and we all started laughing because it was funny, so funny. But that just proves how straight I am. I only did it because I knew he was coming back, and it felt nothing like kissing him. I didn't get those knots in my stomach. I didn't start to sweat. It was just easier. Felt like home. But in a platonic way. I think every straight girl understands what I'm talking about. But the other day when we were together, I thought about that kiss, and it was like a moment of clarity for me. After Stephanie and I crossed that line, there was just no way we could go back. And it was so obvious, like, I don't know how I didn't see it before. Like, I have to break up with him now, because, like, well, the truth is, I'm afraid of commitment. Yeah, so when me and Stephanie kissed, I realized that I wanted every kiss to feel that way, to be simple, easy. No arguments over whose house we should go to for Christmas. I don't need that in my life. Not right now, at least. I just want to be free. Free to sow my wild oats. When I think of the future, of being married to a man, waking up to the same face day after day, making him coffee, kissing him on the cheek, cuddling in bed at night. It's awful. I just get cold feet. I don't think that life is for me. I just need to be free and able to do whatever I want, right? It's like there's this incredible energy inside of me, and like a boyfriend is the only thing holding me back. I need to be able to go crazy to kiss every single guy until I find one that makes me settle down. And then I'll be fixed. I'll be able to have a house in the suburbs with 2.5 kids and make dinner and talk about how our days went. I'll be able to accept that it'll be one man forever and live my life just like anyone else. But for now, I don't think I'm ready. I just want to be free. So I'm going to break up with him. And it'll be hard, but it won't be the end of the world. After all, there's always heartbreak sleepovers with a tub of chocolate ice cream and my best friend. They're to make everything a little bit easier. If I could, I would just go to Stephanie's right now and stay there forever.
Okay, hey, right off the bat, hands up if there are any gays in the audience tonight. Don't be shy. Oh, I see you, very good. Any lesbians, in particular? Hi. Well, I'm single now, and I don't know, this feels like as good a place as any to meet women, at the moment, at least. But honestly, no matter what I'm doing in my life, I feel like I'm doing it wrong, so I guess it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Like, does anyone talk way too fast when they order food at a restaurant because, like, you've just gone over it in your head so many times, and then the waiter asks you to repeat it? I did it last week, and I just sank so quickly into a hole of shame that my food tasted like regret. True story. And then it's like, am I doing being gay wrong? Be honest, because it's so difficult to tell at this point. Like, well, okay, like, can you tell that I'm gay just by looking at me? Like, just, take it all in, all the angles, yes. No, but seriously, I'm genuinely asking, because I have been trying to put out more signals for gaydars recently, but, it's hard. Like, you can't just put a girl in a button-up and give her an undercut and then, like, boom, lesbian, right? For one, I don't like buttons, so it's like, it's just rough out here. And then there's the whole issue of dating, Growing up, I heard a lot of rules from my friends and family about it. For one, let him pay on the first date, but not too often because, you're an independent woman. Exes and intense family drama are not a topic of conversation you should go to. Don't play games and drop hints. Be upfront about your intentions, girl. But this one, if he takes an hour to respond to a text, take at least an hour and a half to reply. Like, solid 90 minutes. This is a rule. This is a big one. Don't put out on the first date. I don't know about you guys, but I am way too horny for that one, personally. Don't be clingy, but don't be aloof. Don't dress slutty. But don't be ugly. Whew, God forbid. And if he breaks your heart, all your friends and brothers and friends' brothers will break his face. These are the 10 commandments of straight love. So when I met her, I was confused. I knew that I was supposed to act a certain way because people in love act like people in love. So naturally, I sized up our quantities of masculinity versus femininity in terms of power, mathematically, of course. She was taller. I was older. She was butcher. I could decimate her in Scrabble. for real. But when I met her, she was cold. She's always cold. But it was Christmas, and there were lights everywhere, and some guy at the party fell into a poinsettia. Men, am I right? But neither of us really knew how to flirt with each other. It was like so embarrassing, honestly. We were so nervous. So I gave her my jacket, and she walked me home. I guess if you're defining gender roles in a relationship by who made the moves, she'd be the more traditionally masculine one. I mean, she kissed me first because I was scared, and she asked me out because I was reticent. She tried to say I love you first, but she got scared, so I said it instead. I held her while she cried. I called the bank for her when she got nervous. And, we broke every commandment in the straight handbook, right? I mean, commandment number 1, let him pay on the first date, but not too often because you're an independent woman and all that. Who the fuck was supposed to pay on our first date? We went to Korean barbecue, and, I swear we must have just sat there for like almost an hour searching for a man to pick up the bill. Rumor has it, they say that in order to determine who in a same-sex relationship is the top or the bottom, you have to see who the waiter brings the check to. Now, they usually brought it to her, but I usually ended up paying. Anyway, rule number 2, exes and intense family drama are not a topic of conversation you should go to. Now, normally I would agree with this, but it is absolutely necessary with queer women for 2 reasons. First of all, everyone has dated everyone else. So, we need to know if our ex from a year ago used to be sleeping with this seemingly perfect new person. And as far as family drama goes, I imagine that sharing coming out stories is to queer people what terrible sex stories are for straight people. I mean, look, okay, I'm not saying there aren't queer people out there having bad sex. I just think the ratio of good to bad sex is a little less skewed, okay? Sorry. Commitment 3, don't play games or drop hints. Be upfront about your intentions. Okay, well, I've never had a straight friend who's done this, first of all, and I've never had a queer friend who's done this. I mean, well, because the median coming out age of most of the people I know is like 18, we never got to be messy and dramatic in high school, so this is how we get it out of our systems. Let us live a little, okay? Commandment number 4, if he takes an hour to respond to a text, take an hour and a half to reply. This just seems like a direct contradiction of commandment 3, so moving on, enough with that. Commandment 5, don't put out on the first date. Now, has anyone heard that joke about the lesbians in the U-Haul? I'm not gonna tell it, because I am self-conscious about the fact that it's true. Look, okay, this girl that I was seeing just ended up spending every goddamn night in my bed, and not for a second did I question whether we were moving too fast. So, point being, put out if you want to. Nothing will stop lesbians from getting overly attached. Commandments 6 and 7 go together pretty well. Don't be clingy, but don't be aloof. Now, unfortunately, these seem to be the only 2 moods I am able to summon on a date. I have been on dates with girls who asked to take a picture of my face, frame it, and put it in their bedroom. And I've also been on dates with girls who have ditched me halfway through because they thought they saw someone who looked like their ex heading to the bathroom. Yeah. Commandment 8 and 9, don't dress slutty, but don't look ugly. Now, I feel like this is one place where queers really deviate from the straight and narrow. For me, slutty and ugly are not things that women present themselves as to get a date. They are words that I call myself to feel more relatable as a human being. But, it's just different. Like, okay, so a lot of my straight friends thought that the girl that I was seeing had a menacing energy. But, all of my queer friends totally understood the appeal. And I still think she was and still is one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Commandment 10, if he breaks your heart, all of your friends and brothers and friends' brothers will break his face. Your friends will not beat up another woman for you. Turns out, simply untrue. A lot of them don't even think that our love was real enough to cause this much pain in the first place. So, am I in pain? Fuck yes. Breakups suck, and the fear of finding another queer person that I can love is exhausting. Would I ever consider going straight to make more sense of the world? I mean, I'd have rules to follow. Oh, but here's one thing I think about a lot. I was talking to a friend the other day, a straight friend. Don't judge me. We've all got them. And, she goes, and then the condom fell off of his dick, and I was so scared, and he was fishing around inside me to get it out. Can you imagine? I mean, and wait, there's more. We had just seen the new Lion King, and he said it was an accident, but I think he was feeling paternal. He bought me a new pair of insert whatever the coolest sneakers were at the time of this conversation, as compensation for emotional distress. I mean, I don't, where do I, right? And, personally, I don't need to know whether a girl's a top or a bottom, or we don't really have gender roles, or otters, or bears, or platypi, fucking pumas, I don't know, I don't know. All we have are our actions, and 10 commandments that don't really apply. So, and I don't really consider myself religious anyway, so here are my 10 commandments for how you should really approach love. Do whatever you want. Climate change will destroy us anyway. Yeah, deuces, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
We're all a little bit guilty of indulging in self-deprecating humor. I mean, who hasn't joked about wanting to get hit by a college bus in order to pay their student debt? Or casually let slip, I'm just gonna go jump off a cliff now after pushing a pull door in public. And the memes have to be the best part. You can't honestly tell me you wouldn't laugh, even just a tiny giggle, at a picture of a garbage can that had a caption that read, "Tag yourself, I'm the trash." I've always been the class clown. My second grade teacher once had me sit outside and do my classwork all alone for an entire day just because I was distracting my classmates too much. Superlatives like class clown are funny because as much as we'd hate to admit it, we use labels when we think about people. When it comes to women especially, we're treated like boxes. Never mind the objectification, we'll unpack that later. Every woman is multidimensional and a little bit different inside. People use labels to distinguish one box from another, and the same is true for women. And even though we aren't supposed to care about what people think, we're all dying to know what labels people use to categorize us in their heads. And these labels, they're not like the nutrition labels you find on a bag of potato chips that lists like 500 different ingredients. They're the complete opposite. Way too short, usually inaccurate, and partially true at best, and often originate from surface level impressions. It would be like buying McDonald's chicken nuggets and the only ingredient listed was meat. Technically, that's not wrong, but not entirely true either. As a kid, my friends loved to play pretend, but not me. During school recess, I dreaded being forced to play the damsel in distress. I hated it, but I couldn't say that, or else I'd become the selfish, stuck-up girl who always needed things to be done her way. But when I joked around, I realized that I could stall and distract my friends long enough to avoid playing pretend altogether. So early on, I decided I wanted to be known as the funny girl. It made navigating life a hell of a lot easier. In school, every clique was cool with me hanging around. With the theater kids, I made fun of how I looked like one of those floppy balloon men at car dealerships when I attempted to dance. My friends from the basketball team laughed when I joked about how I was so stupid for confusing a layup with a curl-up during PE. And by the time I got to college, I got so used to downplaying everything about me, my intelligence, my empathy, my ambition, except my jokes about how I was going to be forever alone and die an old cat lady. People laughed, and I made friends easily wherever I went. Being labeled funny felt infinitely different than being labeled a fob, slutty, or nerdy. No matter how angry I wanted to be, how smart I was, or how sexually empowered I felt, funny always seemed like the lesser of other evils. No one could really spin it and make me look bad for it. Funny was cool, and if people were gonna box you in anyway, might as well pick up your poison, right? It felt better to offer stories of how unbelievably stupid I was to think my crush would ever be interested in me. It felt easier to tell jokes about how whatever problem I was facing at that moment didn't matter because I was crusty anyway and just destined to be depressed and single forever. It felt simpler to laugh about nonchalantly wanting to end my life than to risk being seen as something other than funny. My self-deprecating humor was a crutch that helped me cope, but it was why I was hurt in the first place. Irony may be a bitch, but she's got jokes, I'll give her that. But all jokes eventually get old. Except that one line of the potato flying around to the tune of Frank Ocean's Thinking About You. You know, a potato flew around, you get it. Slipping on a banana peel is only funny the first few times, and then the bruises start to form. Insulting and poking fun at yourself gets old really fast. It got to the point when I would express genuine happiness, people thought I was acting out of character. My pride and self-confidence threatened the image my friends had of me in their head. I can't blame them though. I'd be surprised too if one day Squidward walked into Krusty Krab all excited to work a minimum wage job alongside a coworker with no sense of personal boundaries for a crappy boss who's probably committing wage theft. Like gestures in a king's court, women are expected to perform, to play out whatever delusional image men have of us in their heads. And it's a sick joke that men are so convinced that every little thing a woman does is for them to consume and corrupt. If I were to date another woman, I'd become a man's sexual fantasy. Any attempt at us holding hands or kissing in public will be met with a catcall. If another woman is successful, I'll be pitted against her as competition, as if there can only be one woman with a seat at the table. Even if I show strength and resolve, even if I'm in a position of power, there are strings pulling me to act in favor of whatever label has been assigned to me. But I can crack jokes without taking a crack at my own self-esteem. I can deliver the punchline without forcing myself to take the punches. I deserve tenderness and compassion from others, but most of all from me. A lot of women indulge in self-deprecating humor, but that doesn't make any of us guilty. There is no comedy police, though if there was, maybe there wouldn't be so many Bill Cosby and Louis C.K. types in this world. So, if you're someone looking to quit self-deprecating humor, it starts like this. You'll go maybe the first 2 weeks with being hyper-aware of everything you say. You'll swap every, I'm such an idiot, with something less harsh and more empowering. And the people in your life, if they're good people, will notice. Then you'll stop policing your own language. You'll slip up a fair number of times and say something like, I'm a piece of shit, but like a grade A piece of shit. The kind you'd consider recycling before you can stop yourself. And then you'll try again and again and again until it becomes a habit and until it becomes second nature. There are still lingering parts of a past me that thinks trying to change would be pointless, but with hope, intention is enough. All it takes sometimes is the desire to grow, because I love making people laugh and I want to love myself, and I'm learning that I can do both.
Not all women menstruate, and that's okay. This is the story of a woman who does. Every single woman in my family got their period when they were 13 years old. Generation to generation, each girl hit the mark perfectly on time according to the puberty timeline you see in textbooks. Every single woman in my family, except for me. My period was different, and it was different because of me. Because when I was 11 years old, I began to destroy my body. Because when I was 12, my rosy cheeks turned pale and dark circles shadowed my eyes. Because when I was 13, my pediatrician realized I hadn't grown in 3 years. Because when I was 14, I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. Imagine waking up and the first thing you do each morning, standing before a mirror, picking out your flaws and counting how many ribs you can see. Imagine stepping on a scale 3 times a day, a smaller number appearing on a screen, the only thing that can make you smile. Imagine physically hurting yourself as punishment for eating a slice of bread. Imagine living in fear of every single calorie you put in your body. Imagine a voice in your head that never knows silence. A voice that says you are worthless, hideous, unloved. A voice that makes you hurt so badly you literally bang your head against the wall to try and make it stop. That is what it's like to live with an eating disorder. Anorexia left my adolescent body but a shattered fragment of what it was supposed to be. Puberty had halted itself for 4 years. My bones were weak, my growth plates had prematurely begun to seal. I weighed less than I had in the 4th grade. And I had never had my period. And this proved to be the worst curse of all. As girls my age moved from training bras to Victoria's Secret, mastering the arts of makeup application and tampon insertion, I stood still. I stood on a scale and watched a number tick downwards. I stood in front of a mirror, beating my fists against the worthlessness I saw within my reflection. I stood at the height chart in my childhood bedroom, stagnant at the same penciled line, year after year after year. Hours spent in front of therapist notepads and stethoscopes reinforced a narrative within my mind that my body was not my own, that it was lost, broken, disheveled, that I was lost, broken, disheveled, and menstruation was my ticket to freedom. You need to get your period, the doctor said. It's how we will know your body is healthy again. I don't think anyone has ever wished for blood to come out of their body more than me. My 15th birthday passed, nothing. 16, nothing. You need to eat more. You need to put on more weight. Come on, we're almost there. Just a bit more. Just a bit more. 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 How old are you? 16 and a half. Have you menstruated before? No. This menstruation frustration became my all-consuming thought, the topic of discussion at doctor's offices and the dinner table. My defining, haunting trait that I took as another reminder that I was worth nothing, that I did not belong to myself, that my own personhood was not mine to hold, that my identity as a woman was not one I could rightfully own because my body refused to give me that golden ticket that society had taught me to equate with being a woman. A false narrative taught by a society obsessed with blood. A narrative that convinced me that while it had been destroying my body, my eating disorder had destroyed my very being. The years went on and my underwear stayed white. While my friends complained about cramps and bloating and bouts of PMS, I unwrapped a tampon just to see what it would look like. I wondered if I would ever get to gripe about back pain or bleeding through my jeans, or if my friends knew how much I envied them for the very thing they dreaded each month. And then I was 16 years old, 207 days. I woke up, I went to the bathroom. Have you ever seen a color more beautiful than that of blood staining white underwear? A red spot, a burgundy streak against white cotton. My hands shaking, my mind blank. I grabbed a piece of toilet paper. I wiped once, I wiped twice, both times coming up red. This is a dream. This can't be real. Maybe I'm bleeding from somewhere else. My fingertips brushed along my vagina, trembling as they looked to see if this was true, if it was right. My fingertips were red, like they had been dipped in crimson paint. Blood. I gripped the sink as I gasped for air. My mind began to spin. Oh my God. I stared into the mirror. I touched my face. My reflection touched me back. I'm whole, I whispered. I'm healed. I'm mine again. And I was a woman. But I always was, I see now. I was a woman because I was strong. Because I overcame. Because I fought for myself and I won. I was a woman. I am a woman. And I am mine. 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 Mine.
Let me help you with that, sweetheart. You're doing it wrong. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Oh my God, you're so emotional. Are you on your period or something? Like, just shut the fuck up. If one more fucking guy tries to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, I cannot and will not be held responsible for my actions. I'm so sick of coming home from lab with yet another story of misogynistic Kyle patronizing me. It's always awful, but today, today he went too fucking far. He just sat around all day doing nothing, talking shit about my work and my appearance, and then tried to take credit for my work. As if men don't already get credit for doing the bare minimum, while women have to work our asses off to get a good job. And the fact that he thinks he knows more than I do, and that I'm not capable of succeeding on my own is so fucking irritating. Like, seriously, am I crazy? Or did we get accepted into the same college, the same program, the same internship? What makes you think you're more qualified just because you're too smart to study and you have the audacity to show up everywhere 20 minutes late? Fuck off. Being a woman in STEM is honestly such a struggle. I'm constantly questioning whether I belong here, whether I deserve to be here, and whether I even want to be here. Sometimes it feels obvious. I've always loved science. I've always been curious. I've always wanted to be involved in research. But sometimes it's not so obvious. Yes, since I was little, I knew I wanted to go into science. But did I really? I mean, I knew my parents worked in STEM. I knew that being smart was good, and being a scientist meant that you were smart. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, where everyone is in STEM. Everyone is either an engineer or a doctor, but I knew I didn't want to do that. I much preferred to sing and perform, but I knew, or at least I thought I knew, that people who look like me don't do that. Brown people don't do performing arts. We're practical and cautious. We focus on the safe options that can provide us with a living. So, do I really want to be in STEM? Or do I just think I want to because I always thought it was my only option? It's a difficult question to answer, in all honesty. But I've been contemplating this for a while now. And I've come to the conclusion that I am, in fact, extremely passionate about science. That doesn't mean that I still don't love to sing. And it doesn't mean that I didn't choose science as my path because it was safer and more stable. It also doesn't mean that I regret choosing science as my path. It also doesn't mean that I gave up on my artistic side. Multiple things can be true at once, and I've learned over the years that women are multidimensional superhumans who can do pretty much anything we want. That being said, I believe that I am an intelligent and capable student and scientist. But it's still irritating to constantly feel like I have to prove myself. I shouldn't have to prove shit. Science isn't just science. It's social too. And I firmly believe that every single underrepresented person in the field is changing the game. Maybe in 5 years, I won't have to prove myself anymore. And if that doesn't happen, I'll just keep working my ass off until everyone trusts me to be just as intelligent as my male counterparts. The way we live right now isn't normal. It shouldn't be normal, and it shouldn't be normalized. I never want to get used to walking into a room full of men. I never want to get used to being offered unsolicited advice. I never want to get used to being told that I'm not good enough, that I'm not smart enough, or that I don't look like a scientist, whatever the fuck that means. I will never take shit from anyone. And I will never, ever, ever accept being called a bitch for just standing my ground. I am worth so much more than that. But on the other hand, if they're gonna call me a bitch anyway, why should I worry about the impression that I'm making? If nothing I do will please them, I won't try to please them. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I love it and I want to make a difference. And no Y chromosome fueled superiority complex can take that away from me. I belong here just as much as anyone else. My hope for the future doesn't negate for how things stand right now. I cannot even express the anger I felt when I was doing my biology homework and the textbook credited Watson and Crick with the discovery of the double helix structure of DNA. Not a mention of Rosalind Franklin, the brilliant scientist who actually discovered the double helix structure of DNA. Watson and Crick were just some assholes who stole her findings and won a Nobel Prize for it. On a side note, my high school AP biology teacher said she went to a seminar by Watson and he was super sexist and horrible. So yeah, enough said. The first time I learned about Rosalind Franklin was in 7th grade biology. And my teacher made sure that we all knew the truth about her and Watson and Crick. So it was honestly shocking to me that a college level textbook used by a college as prestigious as UCLA could get something so horribly wrong. Honestly, they could have just talked about the scientific aspects of DNA structure without mentioning the history of its discovery, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. But the authors made a conscious decision to credit Watson and Crick instead of Rosalind Franklin. And to top it all off, when talking about the CRISPR, the textbook mentioned a team of researchers rather than directly crediting Jennifer Doudna for inventing the revolutionary technology. Does my bio textbook hate women or something? I know, it's just one textbook. But also, it's not just a textbook. Textbooks are medium through which we teach and learn, through which we pass down knowledge. If we start pushing these inaccurate narratives in our textbooks, how will our society ever learn the truth? How will we ever become familiar with associating women's names with incredible scientific discoveries? That's how it feels like to be a woman in a STEM class. Always having to speak carefully and worry about not being taken seriously. I don't want women to be forgotten anymore. I want our stories to be told and celebrated. I want men to be held accountable for how they treat women. Fuck you, Watson and Crick. And that's what STEMinism is about. So when I feel hopeless, I think of Rosalind Franklin, Jennifer Doudna, Marie Curie, Katherine Johnson, and so many other incredible women, STEMinists, who have paved the way for us in science and math. I know that none of this will change overnight. I know there's work to be done. I know it's going to be an uphill climb. But when I think about all of these amazing women who I look up to, all I can think is challenge accepted.
I'm tired. I'm tired of how many times I've been walking and a car passing by slowed down to catcall me. I can remember the first time it ever happened. I was 5, holding hands with my mom while we walked down the street. She shook her head and ignored it, so when I was 12, I wasn't really surprised that it was happening to me. This is just a thing men do. Just ignore it. But you can't ignore it. You can't ignore the men at the moment, but you can't ignore it. Because ever since I was 12, I made the conscious decision that if I were ever walking alone, I would never dress in a way that would draw attention to myself. That's not ignoring it. That's adjusting my self-expression for the sake of somebody else. I'm tired of how many times a man has told me to smile. I find myself going, oh, and then smiling as if I just forgotten. That's not true. I didn't just forget. If I'm not smiling, it's for one of 2 reasons. 1, because I'm not happy, or 2, because I just don't fucking want to smile. So if you're a man and you're thinking about telling a woman to smile, maybe remind yourself, She's not some still painting hanging to welcome you for the sole purpose of being appealing for you 24/7. Maybe remind yourself she has emotions and she's not always going to be happy. And even if she is, she's not some blank canvas waiting for your paintbrush and palette. She has her own, and it's full of colors, both beautiful and ugly, that she chooses to share because she walks and she lives and she breathes for herself and nobody else. I'm tired of how many times I've been followed by a man. It's happened to me while going to school, at the mall, at the grocery store, and even while driving, to the point where I become hyper aware of my surroundings. I've learned to go into survival mode each time I go out alone. My hand grips onto the keys in the case I need to use them as a weapon. I walk the side of the street that doesn't have oncoming traffic in fear that I will be kidnapped, and in the case it does happen, at least the drivers will see. This fear is one that I carry with me every time I go out, and it's heavy. It's heavy because men are physically stronger than me, and I know if something happens, I'm not likely to win. My only chance at winning is to take precautions. Precautions I shouldn't have to live with. Precautions that mean I have to assume every man who walks or drives behind me long enough for me to notice is a bad one. And it might not be true, but believing it is before knowing whether he is or isn't just might be my only chance at saving myself one day. I'm fucking tired of how many times a woman has told me she's been raped. Each one of their stories is as traumatizing as the next, and what most people don't realize is how each incident can infect the rest like a vicious virus. There's a 2-letter word I once never said. I was too ashamed. No, I was too afraid. This 2-letter word once took away everything from me. My power, my control, my strength. He became a person I knew, a person I hated, and because I never wanted to see this person again, I would never say that 2-letter word. This 2-letter word will get you in trouble. This 2-letter word will hurt you. This 2-letter word will kill you. And I tried so hard to stay alive by not saying this 2-letter word that I ended up killing myself inside. Because this 2-letter word is more than a sound. It's a feeling that you can't abandon no matter how hard you try. And although this 2-letter word could kill me, I would rather die as myself than live pleasing someone and losing all that I have. My voice. No, not just my voice. My choice, whether it be granted or not, is the last thing I'll have that's mine. Why didn't I just say no? Why didn't I just fight back? Was it my clothes? Did I drink too much? Why did I trust them? Did I secretly want it? Was it my fault? I'm so fucking tired of how many times I blame myself asking, why is it so hard for me to set boundaries? And I realized it's because I constantly grew up with them being crossed. These crossings have become imprinted onto us. We've Pavloved ourselves into feeding this evil queen's gaze, but she's more than a gaze. She's a society-starved beast who forms our entire perception of self. This male gaze has become my magic mirror. And whether I like it or not, she stares back at me, telling me what I'm to look like and how I'm supposed to dress. This gaze has poison my thoughts. Mirror, mirror, how should I appear? You, my queen, get thinner. You, my queen, not quite, just a bit thicker. You, my queen, dress sexier. You, my queen, don't wear that. But, mirror, mirror, I thought the lesser the better? You, my queen, look like you're asking to be attacked. You, my queen, don't worry. Don't be wary. But, mirror, mirror, I had too much liquor. You, my queen, are a liar. You, my queen, can't win a trial. You, my queen, need to ignore it. You, my queen, should go to sleep. You, my queen, don't forget, smile. No.
I'm trying to maintain eye contact with Arnold, but I can't because his penis is about to go inside of me and I want to see it go. My virginity. Gone. I mean, society told me this would be the biggest fucking deal of my life up until this point. I mean, maybe ever. I glanced down rapidly, my eyes flicking back and forth from Arnold's face and his condom-wrapped dick. It looks like a strange mushroom encased in saran wrap, like the kind of thing a poor intern would be forced to purchase for contestants on Fear Factor to choke and gag on. Hey, you okay? He asks me, trying to be sweet, but his voice cracks and I have a sudden flashback of my brother hitting puberty. A bad sign, to be sure. I nod in response. I just want to get this over with. I brace myself for the pain and prepare for the magic, the feelings, the connection to flow between us. Slowly, almost delicately, his penis slides in. I think hard, trying to find the root of my feelings right now, but much to my surprise, the only thing in my head is... When I was 17 years old, my best friend Lena lost her virginity and told me that 17 was the national average for the US. Naturally, I panicked. I mean, I was set to be valedictorian for our graduating class. I couldn't afford to fall behind in anything. I wanted to lose my virginity so badly. I mean, I went through high school the way I was pretty sure everyone else did, dating, having some boyfriends, sucking some dicks, but I couldn't find anyone I actually wanted to sleep with. One day I was mindlessly scrolling through Tumblr and I stumbled across a glossary of sexualities. Asexuality, it said, is the lack of sexual attraction to others. May or may not be sex repulsed, enjoy masturbation, or enjoy sex with partners. Weird, I thought to myself. And then I thought, oh, that's it. That's me. I quickly learned that identifying as asexual was kind of like being a spy for a government agency, but a lot less cool and not nearly as good looking on your resume. It was like, even if you told people, no one was really gonna believe you. People always had counterexamples, like there's gonna be some big gotcha moment if they caught me experiencing the feel. Someone once told me, if you were really ace, you wouldn't have sucked so much dick in high school. Hey, fucko. If you really had hobbies, you wouldn't be all up in my shit. Oral sex is a skill. I didn't spend 6 hours on a Saturday sucking cucumbers for the taste. I can't let all that time go to waste. There was also my personal favorite argument. You only say you're asexual because you found that word on Tumblr. God forbid I find new words on the internet that describe my feelings. It's not like things don't exist just because you don't know the words for them. I found a new word that described me. I found a community around it. I found solace and comfort in other asexual people I met on Tumblr. We helped each other learn and grow, and Sometimes people would learn asexuality wasn't the term they wanted to use to describe themselves anymore, and that was okay. Sometimes people immediately clicked with asexuality, having finally found the right word to describe themselves, and that was okay too. Enter Arnold. We got sunburned together at orientation and were practically joined at the hip from that point on. Soon I had a crush on him. Seeing him would set me into a frenzy of tripping over things and spilling iced coffee on his crotch. Arnold was a gross, twiggy, lovable person who ran cross country and played video games with me. We bickered during study sessions and swore at each other in the dining hall. And then one day I noticed I started to feel excited when Arnold was shirtless around me. Warm, wet, slippery, like a gross, syrupy slip and slide that reached from my cervix to my tongue. Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. I did everything in my power to stop this new feeling of sexual attraction. I mean, I even hid from Arnold and avoided touching my clitoris, even just to wash it in the shower. I had decided that this sexual attraction, this desire, was a thing I didn't feel, and now here it was, looming over me. This integral part of me, this lack of feeling, was suddenly exploding with attraction. So I started to identify as demisexual, a sexuality under the ace spectrum where you only feel sexual attraction after an emotional bond is established. I talked about it with Arnold. And over time, we figured it out. We went on a couple uncomfortable dates and held hands. We took things slowly. We bought condoms, and eventually I slid one nervously onto his penis. He pushed it inside of me, and I waited for something to happen, but all I could think was, oh, that's it? I had masturbated with bananas before, and it felt less alien than this. And despite what my friends had told me, Arnold's penis didn't hurt to be inside of me. It was actually surprisingly pleasant. You can move, go, do your thing, I say weakly. Are you like sure? He asks. Yeah, this is fine. Fine? I mean it's good. It's like please just do it now, I beg. And off he goes. With every thrust, there's a gentle farting sound of our stomachs touching. Imagine slopping the wet sand near the ocean at the beach. And then, 15 minutes later, a knotted condom is thrown into my trash can. Well, that happened. That was what I had waited every single day since I turned 17 years old. In the most anticlimactic moment of my life, I lost my virginity. As Arnold ejaculated inside of me, I realized nothing had changed. I felt exactly the same as I had felt before, albeit slightly stickier. I felt happy. I felt ace. I felt like me.